Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and a very good morning to everyone present. It's a real pleasure to welcome you on behalf of Rawad IT Solutions. We are thrilled to have you with us for this webinar, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to be here. My name is Rahma Muhammad, and I assist with sales and marketing initiatives at Rawad IT Solutions. Before we move into the agenda, let me share a little about us. We have been serving as a trusted technology partner in Saudi Arabia since 2010. Headquartered in Jeddah, we maintain a strong on ground presence in Riyadh and Dammam, supported by remote teams of experts based in India and Pakistan. We bring together regional coverage and global expertise. Our mission is to help organizations strengthen their IT foundations while keeping pace with the kingdom's fast evolving digital and regulatory landscape. Our services cover a full spectrum of IT and security needs, including cybersecurity solutions to protect digital assets and ensure regulatory compliance, cloud and data center management to enable agility and resilience, risk and vulnerability assessment to proactively safeguard critical infrastructure, consulting and design services to align IT strategies with business objectives. Today, we are especially proud to be collaborating with Sapien. They are a pioneer in privacy engineering and responsible AI, with a strong focus on helping enterprises in Saudi Arabia achieve compliance with personal data protection law and align with SADAIA's ethical AI mandate. Their award winning technologies provide advanced capabilities for consent management, data discovery, anonymization, pseudonymization, and DPIA automation, all tailored to the regulatory needs of the kingdom. Together, Rawad IT Solutions and Sapien are bringing you this joint session to showcase practical tools, real world sector use cases, and live demonstrations that will help organizations confidently achieve PDPL compliance and build lasting trust in their digital ecosystems. Before I hand over, let me quickly walk you through today's agenda. First thing, we'll have the introduction to PDPL and impact, key highlights of the law and risks of non-compliance, tools and technologies for PDPL compliance, including practical solutions and implementation approach, live demonstration of consent management, data risk discovery, DPIA and exemptions, anonymization, pseudonymization, and synthetic data. And we'll have a bonus segment of AI and SADAIA mandate plus our exclusive offers. We'll look at the kingdom's ethical AI principles and share some exclusive giveaways for our attendees. One of them you might have seen in a flyer. The other one will be revealed as a surprise during the webinar. And yes, just a quick note. This session is meant to be interactive. So please feel free to ask any questions at any time, either by dropping them in the chat or by unmuting yourselves. We'll address some as we go and the rest during the Q&A at the end. And also, please stay with us until the end. As I told you, we have a surprise that could directly benefit your organization. With that, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Ankit Bajaj, who is currently managing the sales and partnership functions at Sapien, a global leader in privacy engineering and responsible AI solutions. With his deep expertise in business strategy, partnership, and emerging technologies, Mr. Ankit will walk us through the PDPL landscape in Saudi Arabia and how Sapiens solution can help organizations achieve compliance while driving innovation responsibly. Mr. Ankit, the floor is all yours. Take it away. And we are excited to hear what you have got for us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rehma, for a wonderful introduction. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for today's session. I hope I'm audible, Rehma.
Yes, you are, Mr. Ankit.
Awesome. So, I'm really thankful to Rawad IT for our unique collaboration and this strategic initiative. And given that PDPL directly aligns with SADAIA's and Saudi Arabia's 2030 vision, I think it is very, very critical for every organization to understand it, to ensure that they're compliant to it, and they are part of the journey for the 2030 vision. Now, with that being said, compliance is uh, traditionally looked as a very cost-centric approach, and given that today every company is a data company and every company is an AI company, these regulations, whether be it you call let's say PDPL or let's say GDPR or CPRA or HIPAA, these have become more crucial and more important. Now, given that context, because we are living in an AI era, right, where every company is building a Gen AI model, our decisions, our choices, our lifestyle is all governed by algorithms, right? So it is very, very important to ensure what you share with those algorithms, what you share, what you choose to share, and what you are consuming in a part of your daily life. And in that context, sharing personal data to models, sharing personal data without context, sharing personal data outside requirements has become very, very important, and need of trust, need of compliance, and need of governance has become very, very important. So in that context, how do you look at PDPL? How do you align to PDPL is what we are going to take you through in today's journey. And as Rahma mentioned, we will also try to give you some benefits on how you can align to these regulations and how we can explore synergies across organizations. So with that, let me allow me to share my screen and take you through today's session. Let me know if my presentation is visible.
Yes, it
Yes, we
is.
can see your screen.
Awesome. So as Rahama mentioned, so we are Priva Sapien. We are an end-to-end privacy engineering and responsible AI OEM. We work in the domain and we are a SADAIA graduate company. So we understand the nuances, the pulse of Saudi Arabia. We understand the pulse of GCC. We understand where the leadership is headed and what is their function. And the reason why we know all of this is because we are directly working with the regulators like NDMO, SADAIA, and we are directly certified by them. And more or less, we are also working with companies like NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Techs, based out of US, who are the primary regulators in this domain of data protection and data privacy. Now, talking about our journey, so we are a company based out of India, but we are now serving customers globally. Some of our customers, for example, Alphazan Holdings, DIFC, Sadaya themselves, right? And then within European region, we're serving customers like EXL, Zeotap, companies like Maruti Suzuki, Suzuki Motors, Flipkart, Walmart. These are some of the notable names. And if you see what is common in these names is they are huge data custodians. So any company which is considering and controlling a lot of personal data in their ecosystem and are huge data custodians have to align to the global mandates. And these global mandates is what we are going to see in today's session. Now, coming to the first segment, what is PDPL and what will it do to your business? This is very, very important for people to understand. I'm pretty sure people here are already aware about PDPL, but let me give you some glimpses of what it can do to your business, what non-compliance would look like, and what all impact it will have on your day-to-day processing. So when we were at Sadaya, when we were graduating from the Sadaya, they were requesting for some privacy enhancing technologies. This was back in 2023 when they were envisioning the PDPL. So they invited some, cutting edge companies globally to provide their thoughts before they finalize the PDPL. And we were one of the companies who were invited. And one thing that came across in the discussion was, you know, data is the new oil. That is what the Sadaya leadership, the Sadaya president back then told us. And that is what they are looking at. And this serves as a direct, input to the Saudi's 2030 vision. Now, with this context, data being the new oil, how do you protect this oil? See, the value, it is, for example, I'll put it very, very simply. Oil. Oil as an economy, how do you foresee that? Basically, the value is only derived. You can't derive value out of oil if you just store it in your ecosystem. The value is derived when you share it, when you are allowed to transfer it, when you can, give it to some other party who can consume it. Then only the value is derived from the oil. And with oil, you can create multiple things, like the fractional distillation of oil, right? From bitumen to kerosene to diesel to petroleum to jelly to natural gas, everything is produced out of oil. So same goes with data. If data is stored in a single storage in your ecosystem and is not shared across, it's of as good as of no use. The value from the data is only derived when you can share it, when you can give it to a third party, when you can consume the data. But in that process, there are certain challenges. For example, the customer might not consent that you can use his or her personal data for whatever purpose that you like. You can only use the data for the reasons why she has provided you the data for. He or she, you are required to protect the data, right? There are certain guidelines that you need to align to. And non-alignment to those guidelines can probably have somebody attack your precious data, and then that can get leaked and you will be put up across for penalties and sanctions, which no enterprise wants. But at the same time, just storing it away in a secure vault is not the solution. You need to be able to share it. And this is where you can do something called as fractional distillation of data, where you can create multiple variants of data for different purposes and different use cases. I'll give an example. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. This is what I mean by fractional distillation of data, where you can input the personal data and then different variants of data can be created, like masked data, tokenized data, anonymized data, homomorphically encrypted data, synthetic data, differentially private data. And each of the data can serve different purposes in your downstream ecosystem. So how do you create all of this while ensuring that you're collecting consent, you're aligning to the different regulatory requirements is where we come in as a solution. And we provide these solutions out of the box for our customers in a holistic way. Now let's look at PDPL first. So before going into your data and the technologies, let us simply think about what PDPL is all about. What is it that they are asking us to do? So PDPL is telling that if you are collecting data of your citizens and residents in KSA, you are supposed to collect their consent. That is nothing but the Article 9 of PDPL Act. You should have proper consent from the end user to collect their data. This data is then given to downstream parties. For that, you are supposed to have an audit proof with you on why are you collecting this data and what is the necessary requirements. Who is going to consume this data? How long are they going to consume this data? All of this are supposed to be provided via something called as DPIA, Data Protection Impact Assessment. DPIA is the important role to be played by the DPO. And this is the point where a DPO decides if the data is in its current format is good enough to be shared to the downstream party or should he do some minimization. For example, if I am doing analytics, do I need to share ICAMA number for that? If I am doing, let's say, campaign or I'm going to do some cold calling, do I need to give the phone number in the open text format? Or can I encrypt it? Can I mask it? Can I anonymize it? Can I create synthetic version of it? My downstream team is asking data for testing. They are gonna come up with a new feature in an app for which they are asking customers data. Should I give the data for that purpose? Or should I create synthetic data for that matter? These are the questions which a DPO should ask when he is doing data minimization. And regulation already tells there are two types of techniques that they are recommending. Pseudonymization, which is basically encryption, masking, redaction, tokenization, and anonymization, which is basically anonymizing or stripping of the data with any PIIs. And both methods have their own pros and cons, and both methods have their own utility for different use cases. So which method to be used for which use case is what we are going to see downstream when we are doing the demo. And then when you are using this data for model, now I would like to know here in the forum, how many of you are today working with AI models? Anyone would like to share any thoughts if they are working on an AI model as of today? You might want to raise your hand and Rehma can allow you to speak. Are you using Gen AI by any chance? I would like to know from the forum here.
I guess you can unmute yourselves and we can speak about that.
How many of you use Gen AI on your daily basis? How many of you use OpenAI for that matter? And for what purpose do you use OpenAI for? Anybody would like to share?
Okay, actually, we have a question in the chat. Let me read it out for you, Mr. Ankit.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Hafiz is asking, do we need consent when we take a personal information of customer as required by ZECTA for e-invoicing?
Okay. Let me put it this way. Uh, if there is something called as legal basis and lawful basis, if I have to, if customer is consuming a service from me, and for that I have to reach out to him, that is called as a legal basis and legitimate interest. These are the words that you can use when you are talking to Sadaya for such cases. Basically, if a customer is reaching out to you for taking and availing a service, then in that case, you are supposed to reach out to him so that you can contact him. You can ask him what are the services you need, and then accordingly send him the bills for those services, the invoices. In such cases, these are categorized as legal basis and legitimate interest. So these are the things. In those cases, you don't need a consent. But can I use this person's data to understand what additional services can I sell to him? Can I do some marketing to him? Those will require additional consent. I hope that answers your question. So,
I would
coming to the point.
insist the attendees to please feel free to ask questions in the chat or by unmuting yourselves.
Thank you, Rama. So, as I was mentioning, how do you process the data and ensure if there is, let's say in this scenario, for Mr. Hafiz, this scenario, there is no consent available. But does that mean that I cannot give the data to, let's say, my product development team? This is where anonymization comes in. You can anonymize the data, make it non-personal, and then give it to a downstream party. This is the power of technology. Let me now introduce you to some scenarios. What PDPL can impact a business. How many? So I've put across something on my screen. Now this basically is a very generic example, but I think most of us will relate from a business standpoint. How many of us are collecting data from individual without knowing what is the purpose for which you are collecting the data? Are we asking for consent? Before PDPL, without even having a consent of storing somebody's data, then it was okay. But now under PDPL, it is it is illegal, it is non-compliant. So which technology do you need to implement so that you can collect the data without consent? These are the technologies. For example, are you gonna be using the data for monetization purpose? Let's say you are planning to build a model for customer efficiency or customer support. You want to build a model, but that model will help you reduce your cost and thus enhance your, let's say, profitability. But that model might require to be trained on your customer data. Have you taken consent from individuals that you are going to be using their data to train a model? And do you think asking this question to a customer is a good choice? Do you think the customer will agree? Like I will okay use my data to train your models. In that case, how are you gonna go about it? Does that mean that your monetization strategies, your efficiency strategies, your productionalizing strategies, right, your operational strategies will be on hold? No. You can use technologies like these that can enable you to unlock the data for these purposes while being compliant to PDPL. Similarly, are you giving data to third party for multiple reasons? Let's say for doing KYC, for doing background checks, employee data. You're doing background check and then you're giving data to a lot of entities, right? You are giving lot of customer data to lot of entities for advertisement, for campaigns. In such scenarios, are you having any control over the data that you are giving? What if the third party uses the data for some other use cases? What if he starts selling the data? Apart from a contractual obligation, what protection have you built in the process? Other than a contract with a third party that says that you will not use the data for any other purpose. Contracts don't protect the data. It is the technologies and the processes that around the data you have to build. And these are the technologies that you need to align to. And these are the processes that Rawad will build for you, which is what is needed for PDPL. So protection beyond contract is what we are providing with technologies and processes. I'll quickly pause to check if there are any questions on this.
Okay, we have got a question in the chat box. Mr. Hafiz is asking, we are sharing information of insurance companies for employees' medical insurance. Is this
Yes,
case NDA sufficient?
this case is NDA is sufficient, but the way you are sharing, I hope you are sharing it in a data minimized requirement. You are not sharing everything about your employees to a insurance company. For example, they only need the relevant data related to health. They don't need to know what is the salary of the employee, or they don't need to know how many, let's say, they only need to know how many family members they have. They don't need to know the personal information of the family members. So these considerations are you taking before sharing employee data to insurance parties is very, very crucial.
We have another question. Are there any fines related to PDPL?
Yes,
You can show yes.
there are fines related to PDPL as well, right? So let me quickly show you what are the various fines that are there in PDPL. So these are the requirements from PDPL perspective. So the fines can go up to 3 to 5 million Saudi riyal, along with administrative sanctions and imprisonment for repeated offenses for up to 3 years. And these are the things that you need to be managing. You need to ensure lawfulness and in your processing. You need to do data minimization. You need to do purpose limitation. Only process the data for the purpose which it has been given to you. And these are the rights that are given to a resident and a data subject that is a citizen of KSA. He can ask you where my data is. He can ask you to revoke his consent. He can ask you to destroy his data, right? And these are the requirements that a data controller and a processor must have in their ecosystem. Lawful processing that I was mentioning, right? Taking consent, doing DPIA before sharing the data, maintaining record of processing activity, wherever possible, doing data minimization through anonymization and pseudonymization. And whenever there is data related to finance or health, additional controls are needed. And failure to do so has a penalty of 3 to 5 million Saudi riyals, along with sanctions and imprisonment.
Okay, we have got another question, Mr. Ankit. This is from Mr. Taj. He's saying, since the PDPL applies to personal data, how is it relevant in the context of B2B customer relationships?
Absolutely. Great question. For example, in B2B relationship, I'll tell you what is considered as personal data, irrespective of whichever context you are collecting it, right? In B2C context, it is very relevant. Anybody who is the consumer of your products and you are collecting their personal data, they are basically coming under PDPL. But in a B2B context, for example, let's say for business purposes, you are collecting the data of the, let's say, employees. You're collecting data of the point of contact, the branch manager, the procurement manager, right? Let's say the head of the department you're collaborating with, their email ID, phone number, names, you're storing right in your databases. Let's say you're using something like a HubSpot or a Salesforce or any other CRM for that matter, whether it's a B2B company or a B2C company, you're storing those things, right, in your CRMs. So in those CRMs, is the data stored in a protected way? And those data, who are you sharing it with? So irrespective of whose data is it, as long as it can identify an individual and it is, let's say, having personal elements, it is considered under the purview of PDPL.
I hope
Let
that
me also
suffices
give,
the answer. Okay, yeah, Mr. Ankit, please continue.
yeah. So these are the various requirements from PDPL. So you need to have personal data, that is basically anything that can identify an individual. It can be your name, email ID, ICAMA, or it can be a combination of your SEMA score and let's say location. If any such data can also identify you, it will consider as personal data. And whether you have masked it, whether you have encrypted it does not matter, because even I can decrypt it and identify you. I can unmask the data and identify you. Right? So till this point, PII, masked PII, encrypted PII are all considered as personal data. When you cross this border, which is basically you're getting into the realm of anonymization, synthetic data creation is where it is becoming non-personal. And this data you can give to anybody. This data is exempted from PDPL. And this data can be used for multiple purposes. Analytics, synthetic, different use cases can be given. And these are the products that we provide out of the box that enables enterprises to comply with PDPL requirements, like Consentium for consent management, cookie management, data subject right management, DPIA, X-ray Nebula Prescriptron to understand your data risk discovery, where what type of data is getting stored across structured, unstructured data, documents, tables, PDFs. Then we have solutions like Event Horizon Cryptosphere Data Twin that enables you to protect this data. For example, from PII to pseudonymized you want to do, you can use Cryptosphere. From PII to anonymized, you can do Event Horizon. From PII to masking, you can do anonymization. From PII to synthetic, you can use CloneLM. Like that, we have different variants of solutions available for you to protect your data and create, you know, the fractional distillation of data, mask data, pseudonymized data, anonymized data, synthetic data, which then you can use in downstream applications for different use cases. So let's take an example. So let's say this is a enterprise. Now this enterprise is collecting a lot of data. So the first obligation is to collect, first you are collecting this personal data, ICAMA, phone number, email ID, location, address, date of birth. So for all these attributes, you are supposed to take consent, and the consent should be associated with a purpose. Why do you need the email ID? Why do you need the ICAMA number? Why do you need the address? All have to be justified here. It could be for, let's say, verification purposes, profiling purposes, background verification, legal compliance. What is the requirement for which you are collecting the data? And then the data can be coming into your ecosystem. From your ecosystem, multiple parties are consuming the data. And the parties can consume the data only if there is a approval from the DPO. Let's say customer onboarding team wants to have the customer's data so that they can onboard them. In that case, customer onboarding should send a request to the DPO what customer attributes they will be processing, how long they will be processing, for what purpose they will be processing, and is that purpose consented by the customer. So customer onboarding is the purpose, he has consented for it. So this person's data can go to the customer onboarding with the approval from DPO through DPIA. If the customer tomorrow changes the consent, let's say new product offering, initially his consent was given. So new product team was getting the customer data, but suddenly he changes his consent, which he can. He has the right to change his consent. Does that mean your product team can't get the data? They can't get the data directly from the database, but you can privacy preserve the data and then provide him with a anonymized data or a synthetic data, which is not related to this person. It is more like a demographical data of the person. It is a persona level data, not a personal level data. And you must provide an option to the customer for changing his consent also, which is called as the consent management portal, where he can come in, change his consent, and accordingly the downstream data should cease to process if there is a change in the consent. So how do you implement this mechanism in your ecosystem is where our tools and technologies comes in. I'm happy to explain this one more time, but I would like to check if people have understood this flow because this is very, very critical for PDPL.
We have a couple of questions. Okay. Start. How does PDPL apply to
Oh,
a holding company where all the data is collected by the CMA and be downloaded by the company to know about the shareholders, but not further shared further with anyone?
Okay.
Local
Rahma,
copies
do
are
we have any
possible.
further questions?
Yeah, we have
Yes,
a couple of.
we have lots of questions.
Sure.
Do you want me to read out
Okay.
the same question again?
Yeah, yeah, please can you do one by one?
Okay, yeah. So Mr. Murtuza was asking, how does PDPL apply to a holding company where all the data collected by the CMA has been downloaded by the company to know about the shareholders, but not further shared with anyone?
So if you are, let's say, a holding company and you have multiple subsidiaries, right? And all those investor informations you are having, which is also considered as personal data. But since you are not sharing it, a normal consent from the shareholders in a written form that yes, you will be storing is also a purpose, right? You will be storing that data for, let's say, legal requirements or legal compliances. A notification is to be given to all the shareholders, and there has to be an explicit action by the shareholders that yes, they are consenting for it. For people who are not consenting for it, you have to tell them about the repercussions. For example, if they are not consenting for it, there might be legal requirements that you have to store the data forcibly. But this notification has to go to them because there is a legal and a lawful basis to process this data, right? So this notification you have to share to them, to all your shareholders. And assumption here is that you are only storing the data. But let's assume that downstream you want to understand which age group of shareholders is longer duration in your ecosystem. You want to do some analytics on shareholder data. Then that is a separate consent. The same consent might not be enough to process for that purpose. I hope that answers Mr. Hafiz's question. Next question.
Yeah, the next question is from Mr. Abdullah. He's asking, what are the key differences between PDPL and global data protection laws like GDPR or CCPA?
Absolutely. PDPL and GDPR are, I will say, almost 70 to 80% same. They all say that the data should be collected in a protected manner. There has to be a consent. The only thing that PDPL is adding a flavor of legal elements and a technological elements. For example, PDPL directly says that if you are using anonymized data, in that case, the data is exempted from PDPL. I will give you the SADAIA guide. So this is the PDPL guide that we curated in conjunction with SADAIA, right? And here, if you see, they have clearly called out, right? A personal data that undergoes anonymization is no longer subject to PDPL. It is the process of removing personal identifiers from a data set so that it is no longer identifying an individual in any way, right? So if you want to claim such exemptions, this is the beauty of PDPL. They have given everything that a company needs on compliance to PDPL. If I have to say what is personal data, right? They have clearly called out what is meant by personal data. See, what is the meaning of personal data? Any data, regardless of its source and form, that can lead to identifying an individual directly or indirectly. So it need not be only your name, email ID, ICAMA. It can be a combination of your SIMA, gender, date of birth also, right? So anything that can identify you directly or indirectly is considered as personal data.
Okay, Mr. Abdullah has the extended question to this slide which is going on. He's asking,
Mhm.
what's the PDPL stance on cross-border data transfers when database is in the cloud?
Yes. So if the data, so basically PDPL applies to any KSA citizen data. The data can reside within KSA boundary or it can be outside KSA boundary. That is what they are calling it. So there is a specific aspect of territories, territorial scope where PDPL applies. Processing of personal data inside the kingdom and processing of customer data any individual staying inside the kingdom by any means, including the party located outside the kingdom. So if your data is stored outside the kingdom but it contains personal data of KSA citizens, it is still gonna be applied to it. You see, in foreign jurisdictions as well. So it does not matter where your where your database lies. If it contains personal data related to kingdom, the PDPL will apply. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a question from Mr. Taj. He's asking, is digital consent acceptable?
Yes, digital consent is very acceptable.
And then we have a question again from Mr. Abdullah. He's asking, how can privacy on be practically implemented through encryption, role based access, or policy based controls?
Absolutely, great question. This is where we are building multiple solutions that can enable customers for getting these compliances, right? So we have something called as CBAC, which is basically called consent-based access control. If the customer has given the consent, then your marketing team can see the data. If the customer has revoked the consent, the department will not be able to see the data. So like you have role-based access control, we have something called as consent-based access control also, which is becoming part of like multiple ecosystem can be made. And this is what we have implemented in multiple of our clients. I'll just give you a quick example. Let's say this is a customer. The customer has visited your branch or he can visit your website, right? And then he can give the data for which you are capturing the, let's say for savings account opening or for any other account opening for loan, you're capturing the data. Now, what PDPL says, while you are capturing this, you are supposed to take a consent. You're supposed to take a consent that what all purposes the data will be used for. It can be used for sales, marketing, KYC, third party, background verification. So this consent form you are supposed to provide them. Based on this consent form, the consent will be collected here. The data will be collected as usual in your bank database or in your wherever database. Now you are creating a ID for the customer, right? That ID will be mapped to the consent. Now tomorrow, let's say this data is being used by marketing team. So first of all, marketing team has to do a DPIA on why they need the data. Based on that, the DPO will approve and probably encrypt the data and give it to the marketing team. And based on the consent available, marketing team will try to reach out to the customer and see whether they can decrypt the data or not. If the consent is available, he can decrypt the data, call the customer. If the consent is not available, he cannot decrypt the data. And this can be integrated with your DPIA, uh, enterprise policy, and the role of the individual can be configured. I hope that answers your question.
We have another question from Mr. Rizwan. He's asking, what are the key controls for compliance with PDPL?
Great question, sir. So this is where I would like to explain you the key technologies that you need to implement for PDPL. First is consent management, where you have to integrate with all your front-end databases, with your front-end touchpoints, and you have to collect the consent. Then with all your DBs, where all personal data is getting stored, what type of data is getting stored, you need to do a data discovery, a data risk assessment. And then you have to do a process DPIA, which process is consuming what type of PIIs. Once you do this, you get to know your current posture. You get to know which process is consuming what data and which customers have given consent, which customers have not given consent. Once you know this, you can take a decision to control this risk. Now, the control mechanisms that we provide are like anonymization, synthetic data, pseudonymization, differential privacy. This is the privacy on button, the privacy switch that you can implement. And then, depending if you're doing AI, then we have additional solutions for AI also. But for PDPL, these two blocks are very, very crucial. This is for ethical AI as per SADAIA. So now we will see a quick demo of the platform and walk you through the key products that you would require in your ecosystem. So I would like to now ask my team member Shaili, to share her screen and give you a quick, we'll give you a quick walkthrough of the products. Shaili, can you share your screen?
Sure, sir.
Meanwhile, we'll see if there are any further questions. Again, pardon me if I'm not able to answer all of them. We'll try to get back to you because we are on, very strict timelines. So if there are any further questions that I'm not able to answer, please feel free to share it to us. So I think there's a question on reference ID. So the reference ID and the consent ID, we will show you now on how they can be integrated with our customer IDs, right? So first and foremost, consent management. This is the first important point that you have to do when you are doing PDPL. First, you need to integrate a notification on your front end where you are collecting the customer data. We have a sample website. Shelly, if you can open a sample website, let's assume this is your website, right? And in this website, you have to give a notification that I am going to be collecting the data for so and so purpose. Can you put it in Arabic, Shelly? A notice like this is to be provided to your end customers through your end touch points. Let's say it could be your website, it could be your mobile app, where you're supposed to tell them why are you collecting this data? What is the purpose for which the data is going to be used for? And this can be something which can integrate with your collection touch points, right? Both preference, that is universal consent, and cookie consent, because both contain personal data. So for both of them, you have to collect the consent. Okay. Once this consent is collected, the consent is stored in our system. Can you go to the consent collection system, Shelly? This is where the consents get captured. By the way, this entire platform is on-prem. This will be in your ecosystem. So here you can see for what all purposes we have collected which all people's data. Somebody has given consent for finance, somebody has given consent for marketing, somebody has given consent for analytics. Like that, multiple people have given consent for multiple purposes. So this basically tells us I can use this person's data for what all purposes. So tomorrow, if Shaily's data is available with the sales team, it is wrong because Shaily has not consented for sales. She has only consented for getting our offers, finance, and analytics. Sales should not have this data until unless there is a legitimate interest. Then we can click on the ROPA button to show you where all this person's data is currently being used, right? Which are the functions who are using this person's data. To open any one of them, Shaily?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can use Deepak. Third one, yes. Okay, there are no DPIs done, but basically it will tell you where all the data is flowing from this system, where all the data is going to which all downstream parties. So that is the ROPA that is also available as a part of the platform. And here you can also maintain consent versioning as well. Like the customer has given consent today for sales marketing. Tomorrow he might change the consent also, right? Initially he might have given only for marketing, then he added finance, then he added analytics, then he removed finance. Like that, there can be multiple changes that can happen to the consent, right?
Okay,
If
regarding the
marketing
consent
department,
form, yep. What if the marketing department requests data for a purpose not listed in the consent form?
then they should not be collecting the data. If they are collecting personal data without, that will be as good as collecting the data without consent. Until and unless there is a legitimate or a legal basis, you cannot take the data. Marketing team in their DPIA must justify why they need the data. If a purpose is not listed, the only exemption they can get is for a legal basis or for a legitimate interest. If these two are not there, then it is as good as not taking consent.
And what if they have signed the NDA to provide the information to the third
That is
party?
where that is where PDPL says the consent taken has to be clear, unambiguous. An NDA which is ambiguous, you cannot say you have to consent for everything. That cannot be the right way of collecting consent. Consent has to be specific, it has to be unambiguous, it has to be clear, and there has to be an explicit action. You cannot say you just give me a blank signature and I will take consent for every. I'll assume that this is a consent for everything. That is not how you take consent. That is not admissible. Now, yeah, so this is how you collect the consent, and this is how the data comes into your ecosystem. Now, once the data comes into your ecosystem, there are multiple databases, right? Shelly, if you can open the connectors. So there are various types of databases that we have in our ecosystem. And these databases can be of multiple types, from Oracle DB to MongoDB to S3 buckets to Azure buckets, right? Microsoft S3, Microsoft systems, MinIOs. Now, which are the databases which are collecting this data? What type of data they are storing? How do you know this? This is where we have connectors for all of these databases. If it is not loading, Shally, allow me, then I can show you.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, it is.
Huh. So you see, these are the various databases that we directly connect to out of the box, right? So we can tell you whether these databases contains personal data elements or not. And if they are containing personal data elements, the department owner must justify in the DPIA why do they have the personal data elements. For example, if the marketing team database contains e-commerce number, Marketing team should justify why they are holding e-commerce number. There has to be a legal requirement for it or a necessary requirement for it, right? In the Google Drive, you are storing, let's say, customer invoices. Why? That is the question that the DPIA should answer. And this should be done for all processes in your ecosystem, whichever is consuming personal data. Can you go back to Shelly? So what we provide is we connect to these databases and we can tell you what type of attributes these data assets are holding, and we can quantify the risk for you. So here, let's say, Shelly, if you can open a data set like an Excel sheet or something. So let's assume this is a data set that you have in your ecosystem, which contains name, address, basically a customer master, right? What is the, let's say, IBAN number, national ID, e-commerce number. These are the things that anybody will have. Let's say you are a bank. I am coming to the bank and I want loan from you. Bank can ask all of this from me, right? And this is a data set which any banking customer master will have. Now, this data set is stored in your Salesforce, or this is stored in your Microsoft, or this is stored in your, let's say, S3 bucket somewhere as a database. Now, you need to know what are those attributes, right? So this is where X-ray comes in. So X-ray connects to the database, scans the data set, and gives you the results and tells you what are the attributes that are there in this data set. If you can scroll down, Shelly. So here it is telling you what are the various attributes that it has come across, like name, email ID, phone number, ICAMA, IBAN numbers, national ID, phone number, SIMA scores. It has identified all of them. And these are the PIIs that are available there. Now, and it is also quantifying the risk for you. So we use two parameters called the risk index and the risk score, basically telling you a qualitative and a quantitative understanding of the data. A risk score of 100 means I can easily identify what is the probability of identifying an individual in this data set. The probability is 100%. Why? Because I can identify everyone with their ICAMA. I can identify everybody with their email ID. I can identify everybody with their phone number. Because PII is present, I can identify every individual. Now, the other is the index. Index tells you what is the sensitivity in the data. Identifying an individual with his ICAMA is very different than identifying an individual with his email ID or phone number. Correct? Your ICAMA is very sensitive, right? If I identify you with your ICAMA versus identifying you with your, let's say, job location, which one do you think is more sensitive? So this score is basically telling you your sensitivity. And let's say tomorrow, as an enterprise, as a compliant enterprise, you are encrypting this data or you are masking this data, you are anonymizing this data. What happens to the risk? You're reducing your risk, right? So let's say when I run the same data set which is undergone encryption, what is the risk in the encrypted data? The same data set, but now it has gone encryption. So you see your identification risk has been reduced by almost 30%, and your sensitivity has reduced by almost 30%. This is the power of pets. Why? Because we have encrypted, we have pseudonymized the data. Scroll down, Shelly. Go to the last. Here you see all the PIIs which were sensitive in nature has been encrypted, and my system is able to identify them and tell you that these are encrypted and thus these are less risky compared to the original data. This is the function of privacy X-ray in a structured data set. Now let's assume you have documents. Let's do the same thing in documents. So can you open the actual document, Shelly? Now let's say this is the document, which can be an email, it can be a invoice, it can be anything, right? Now, this document contains so many personal information. Everybody writes emails to banks. Everybody write letters to banks telling that I need so and so loan. I need, this and this help from the bank, and these are my details. And these document contain a lot of personal information. And let's say somebody gets hold of this information, do you think it will be very, no, like it is so sensitive document? Don't you think they should be protected? So how do you identify these documents as per NDMO guidelines, as per SAMA guidelines? How do you identify those? Is where Nebula comes in. So this document, when I scan under Nebula, what happens? Nebula tells me what are the sensitive elements in this data set. Can you open it? Open
Is my
details.
okay.
The screen is visible. Can you open the details? Here you see the document is able to identify what is the identifier, location, name of the person, right? Which organization he belongs to, everything, right? And this is very, very helpful because now you can take a decision whether I need to remove these identifiers or keep these identifiers. Let's say you decided that I want to mask this document. So what happens to the risk when I mask this document? So you see the risk scores were 100 and 860. Now when I removed the, let's say when I did the masking, so this is the original document. And now when I masked, you see it has significantly reduced. Can you open the document? You see, this is the same document, but now in a masked. Now these type of things we can do for you with our product. I can mask it also, and I can then quantify it also. I can then classify it also for you. And which processes should consume mask data, which processes should consume actual data, what is the sensitivity, what type of tools and technologies you need to implement is where Rawat comes in. They help us with the process side of things, we help them with the technology side of things. And this two together helps you with the PDPL compliance. I'll take a quick pause to here to check if people are understanding the points that I'm trying to portray here. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah, we have a question, and he's asking, how does PDPL handle data that has already been collected before the law came into effect?
Very great question. I'm assuming you're referring to consent, right? So PDPL has called out that any data that was collected before PDPL became an act, right? For those historical users, first of all, you can do something called as consent migration. For all historical users, we will put up an Excel sheet. You can fill up the details and that consent will be migrated and those end users will be notified. First of all, that the enterprise has their data and that data is available with them. If they choose not to have, like they are data subjects, right? They have these rights. They can choose to tell us that they don't want us to process their data, then we will delete the data. This is number one related to consent, right? And if they request you to delete the data, then you can always mask it, redact it, anonymize it, and then remove it in the ecosystem. That's how you take care of the historical data.
And then we have another one. Like, how can small businesses with limited resources approach PDPL compliance effectively?
So this is where I'm saying. So our platform provides all these solutions that you see, right? These are modular in nature, right? Different departments, different enterprises, different businesses can leverage this in their use case perspectives. And we have multiple tiers of licensing, right? Based on your consumption, we have different licensing models also. I don't charge Aramco the same way I would charge a, let's say, smaller company, because Aramco's data will be huge, right? So that's why our licensing model is also aligned based on enterprises consumption. So that will help you to keep your cost in the appropriate budgets. I think there's
Okay,
a
we have
question.
another one in the chat. Yes, does it only perform data masking or does it also perform encryption?
Absolutely, great question. Shelly, if you can open Nebula, the encrypted version. So our solutions can also do encryption as well. And it can do the encryption depending upon your requirements. So here you see we have done the encryption. We have encrypted the name, we have encrypted the location, we have encrypted the ICAMA number, we have encrypted the phone numbers, right? So now if you have the right authority, you can see the decrypted values. Somebody who does not have the authority cannot see the values. Shelly, can you go to Ragam and show the landing page of encryption decryption? Click on new job, new job, new job. Yeah. Upload file unstructured. No, no, connection. Just, don't need to go. Just keep connection. Data set mode connection. Yeah. Just scroll down. Yeah. So you see, these are the various things that we can encrypt, redact, tokenize within a document. We also provide you with a powerful selection option based on your company policy. What entities in the document you want to encrypt, redact, or tokenize, depending upon your requirement. So we support both masking and encryption. And these are basically the SAMA entities that you are supposed to identify. But we have gone beyond that also. Things like faith, maliciousness, ethnicity, chemical. We have also gone into that direction also. So we are kind of proactive for that matter.
That's great.
Uh,
We have another one, and he's asking for a company that operates in a global market. So, how does PDPL compliance tool integrate with or differ from solutions other than the GDPR?
so for example, let's say you are an entity who is working globally. So we have the solution that aligns to global regulations. So let's say you want to understand your privacy posture against a DPDP or a PDPL or a GDPR, right? So we have those options available. The same data set when it is passing through GDPR might have different requirements when it is passing through PDPL. So we are able to provide you with those nuances also by mapping it to the regulation. See, for example, a personal data is a personal data. With the, let's say, for example, email ID. GDPR also says email ID is personal data. PDPL also says email ID is personal data. For those scenarios, it is very common. But the nuances is in the processing. As I said, GDPR and PDPL is 70% in line. 30% there is a change. PDPL directly says if you are anonymizing the data, you are exempted. GDPR says that, but the techniques can be differing. Your data sets can be differ. For example, GDPR talks about social security number, you will talk about ICAMA number, but eventually the essence is the same. So if let's say as an organization you are aligning to GDPR, probably you are aligning 60 to 70% to PDPL requirements also. The only delta part is what you have to align to as a global organization, let's say. And that delta is what we identify together and solve for you. And then this
We
platform
have
is
another
available.
one.
Yeah,
Apologies, Mr. Ankit.
no worries. Please go ahead, Rama.
Okay, so a person is asking, what's a good first step for an organization that has just started to work on PDPL compliance?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So, actionables. Let's talk about actionables. As an organization, if you have just started your journey, first and foremost, you should know where all what type of data is getting stored in your ecosystem. That is basically privacy X-ray and Nebula, right? If you have not done anything. Second, do you already have a privacy policy, a data sharing policy in place? Let me share my screen and show you what SADAIA recommends for your journey. So this is the SADAIA's official website, right, which has all the regulations and everything. SADAIA, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Mr. Ankit, it is.
So SADAIA has provided a step-by-step guideline on what you need to do to get PDPL compliant. Like for example, appoint a DPO, create a data sharing policy and regulation, right? Align to open data policy, depending which one applies to your organization, right? Having minimum personal data determination guide, right? How to do anonymization, pseudonymization guidelines. Sadaya has provided everything in detail for enterprises to go through. What is your ROPA look like, right? And what are the AI ethical guidelines that you need to align to? Sadaya has thought through of everything and given that in details for every organization. So you can just have a quick look into this and take it up. Any questions?
Yes, we have one question from Mr. Mohsen, and he's asking, are there any certificates for the PDPL laws? Like, do we need to collect any certificates for that?
So I'll give you some, okay, for the people in this domain, don't quote me anywhere. So Sadaya is coming up with a committee which will roll out that certificate, but that committee is still under progress. So that committee will be formed, let's say in some time, and that committee will be basically, so they are formulating what that committee should look like. What are the nuances that that committee should do? What are the various, let's say, things that committee should check in an enterprise to guide, to give them that certificate? So we have given our inputs to Sadaya. They are finalizing that document. So soon you will be able to see something like this here also, like what a recommending committee should look like and what a recommending committee should look into an enterprise to provide this certificate. So that is something that we have given our feedbacks to Sadaya, but they are yet to analyze and come back on that. Okay. So I understand that the demo was quite descriptive, and this is what we wanted to share. For example, what is available on our platform. And now we would like to know from people like, are there any specific technical questions that they want to see in the platform? Because our platform is very elaborative. It has everything from consent management to cookie management to data subject rights to ROPA creation, DPIA, discovery, encryption, masking, redaction, tokenization, and much more than that also. So, I mean, we would be happy to do an individual demos to each of the enterprises if they are interested. But on a nutshell, in today's webinar, I just wanted to showcase this, what is available as a platform that will help you with PDPL compliance in its entirety. So just to give you a quick summary, this is what we are talking about. So we have solutions for consent management, DPIA, ROPA, which is called PMS, Privacy Management Systems, which is basically your first step. Second step, data collection, where we do data discovery, risk assessments, and DPIA. What is the type of data that you have collected, and who are the downstream consumers of that data, and how are they consuming that data? That is basically called PTM, Privacy Threat Modeling. This is where you can take a, this is a decision making stage where the DPU has to take a call whether the data that they're collecting and processing is in line to what the risks are. For example, if somebody is processing high risk data, can they encrypt and anonymize or create synthetic data and reduce that risk? And then here comes the model training part. If you are giving data to models, if you are training models, are you doing ethical AI? Then we have additional solutions that can align you with privacy preserved machine learning, model security, user safety. How many of you are interacting with OpenAI? Let me give a scenario and tell me if this is something that you align to. I go to ChatGPT and I tell ChatGPT that, hey, I lost my credit card. This is my credit card number. This is my bank account number. This is the branch manager's email ID. Help me write an email to him. about my lost credit card and help me close the account. Do you think you can write something similar to an OpenAI also? Like, for example, this is my e-commerce number, this is my credit card number, I want to take a loan. Can you please tell the bank, can you please write a polite email for the bank manager so that he approves my loan? Everybody does that.
No, no, we should not do that. We should not give these
Exactly.
details to OpenAI or any chatbots.
Absolutely. I totally 100% agree. But how many of us consciously know this is a
That is a
very
big
big question.
question.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how do you protect that? That is where user safety comes in. Because by default, we have to assume that we are all no voice users. We might not know about these threats until we experience them, right? This is where these guardrails have to be implemented as a front end for the users, for enterprises. Let's say you are using OpenAI for your chat, let's say customer experience. Customer comes in, asks you for OTPs and everything. And as a part of that, you are like, he's telling, my name is this, my email ID is this is the OTP, verification. All of this data is going to US. All of this data is going to ChatGPT. And tomorrow this person says that I am no longer your customer, delete my data. Can you delete data from OpenAI that you have already given to? That is a clear violation of data subject rights. So eventually, even if you're using AI, it all ties back to your consent mechanisms. So it is very important to implement these to align to PDPL in case you are aligning to, you are using Gen AI use cases.
So, Mr. Ankit, in this case, how PDPL will protect this data because like when we are sharing this sensitive data with OpenAI or any other platforms, okay, in form of chatbots or in form of registration forms or any other forms. So, how
Yes.
PDPL will act in this situation and how they will request those organizations to delete the data of the users? Will they
Absolutely.
act promptly as a governmental organization or else like they
PDPL will
may come up? Yeah.
PDPL will not come up with a prompt mechanism. PDPL has already given you the guidelines on how to go about using this. That is what I was showing you here. Sadaya has already told what is this generative AI guidelines. Can you see this? What is this
Yes, that's
principles
right.
and controls of AI ethics? You need to align
Perfect.
to this.
Yes, we have
If
to
you are
be
not
aware
aligning
of
to
those
this, yes,
things. Yeah, yeah. We need to be
correct.
aware of those things, what we need to share and what we have to not to share.
Exactly. Exactly. And our technologies help you to align to these frameworks. So this is where
Great.
our offerings of responsible AI comes in, which are purely in line with SADAIA's AI guidelines. So SADAIA is, if you see, SADAIA is not differentiating between the privacy law and the AI law because it is integrated. It is not differentiating. The same way we are also aligning with our approach. Our approach is also an integrated approach. So if you see, our approach is also an aligned approach where data, and we are also saying the same thing, that data and AI is integrated. It is not a two different approach. It's a single approach. Yes. So when we say there is data and there is AI, it is not two different things. It is two different sides of the same coin. That is what we need to understand as enterprises. And this is why we provide the entire spectrum from consent collection to model security, model safety, user safety, AI governance. Okay. So now that we have covered the live demo, I'll just quickly take a pause to see if there are any further questions.
Yes, we have a few questions. Mr. Taj was asking, does your platform support integration with other on-premises or on cloud-based HR and ERP platforms?
Absolutely. We integrate with solutions like Oracle ERP, SAP ERP, Microsoft 365, Salesforce. Again, outside of these, if you are having, let's say, success factor or any other HRMS application, we can integrate to those. It's an API based integration, right? So as long as they can consume or they can integrate with the APIs or they have open APIs, we can integrate with, we can have the integration successfully created. So I'll show you the
Mr.
out of
Sankar?
box connect.
Oh,
So
sure.
these are the out of box connectors that we support as of today. You see MongoDB, Microsoft SQL, Postgre, DocumentDB, SharePoint, Elasticsearch. And if there is anything outside this also, we can integrate. Not an issue. Yeah. What was the next question?
Yep, Mr. Rizwan was asking how this solution can be integrated with the production environment.
I mean, as like depending upon your requirement, as I said, I can connect to multiple databases. So the database could be a staging database or it could be a production database. Depending upon what is your requirement, we can integrate. My connectors is nothing but the address that you provide me. You provide me staging address, I will connect to staging database. You provide me production database address, I will connect to production database. The good thing is we don't do any write activity in the production database. I will show you how we generally do the architecture. This is our general architecture. Let's say these are the type of data that you have in your ecosystem, right?
Mr.
These
Ankit,
are
sorry for the interruption, but then your Zoom is overshadowing the presentation actually.
just 1 second. Is my presentation visible now?
Yes, it is clear now. Yes.
Hmm. So let's assume these are the downstream departments that are consuming the data, and this is how you are collecting the data and then storing it in multiple databases. And then there is PDPL, GDPR, UEI Act, multiple regulations that apply onto this data. Today, the people are consuming the data directly from this database. People are directly consuming the data, right? There is no consideration for PDPL, there is no consideration for data privacy. Everybody is consuming the data directly, and there is no control on this database except for data at rest where you are encrypting the data at best. There is no DPO, no requirement, no approvals, no processes. This is what needs to be changed. So this is what we are telling that you should change the process. You should need to bring in a DPO. So basically, we create a privacy preserved version of the data. And then different teams request. So this is the DPIA process. They request the data to the DPO. This is the DPO. This is the DPIA. DPO sees the data request, understand the risk in the data. This is privacy X-ray, the Pixar score, Pixar index. He takes a look at both of them and takes a decision whether the data should go or not. And then the data flow can happen. If he feels that this person's requirement can be met with anonymized data, he should consume anonymized data. If this marketing team, analytics team can use only synthetic data, they should use synthetic data. Research team can use, let's say, encrypted data, they should use encrypted data. Third parties should get only redacted data, they can redact the data and give it to third party. So different use cases, different parties can get different flavors of data depending upon the requirement. Now, this could be your production, quality, staging, depending upon how you look at it. Does that answer your question?
I guess that suffices the answer. Okay, we have another question from Mr. Mohsen, and he's asking, are there any other compliances needed along with NCA, DCC, or ISO?
So PDPL compliance is important. You can do ISO 27701 and you can also do ISO 31700, which is privacy by design. And for responsible AI, you can do ISO 42001. Apart from that, if you are aligning to NDMO and SAMA guidelines, I think that should be fairly good enough for your compliance perspective. Okay. Given we have only 7 minutes left, so I would now request uh, you know Rahma to please help us on the bonus segment. So
Yes.
one important
Yes.
uh, reveal from our side is Everybody who has participated in our system today will get a free access to our tool for 4 week period. We will try to ensure that you get hands-on with the products, and we will try to support you as much as possible. We want you to experience this encryption, anonymization, redaction, masking, hands-on, these cutting-edge solutions, these award-winning solutions on the go, and see how this can enable in your enterprise ecosystem. This is one token of appreciation from our side to all the joinees who have given us their valuable time. So we want to reciprocate back and provide you with all the cutting edgeness that we can provide from our side. Rama, would you like to announce the second part?
Yep. Yes, and as Rawat, we are excited to share a special surprise from our side for all our attendees. For organizations interested in exploring these solutions further, we are offering a special proof of concept discount. So this the condition is that if you register your interest before the 15th of September, you will be able to avail a discount on the proof of concept. So this will be a great opportunity to try the tools hand on and validate the value in your own environment and accelerate the PDPL compliance journey with our support.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahma. And I think this is something that can really enable enterprises in kickstarting their PDPL journey. I know most of you are already starting their journey or are about to start their journey. So hence, a token of appreciation from ours and Rawad's side for all the enterprises who want to start and take this journey the right way. So yeah, that's it from
Is
our
it
side.
possible
Thank you
to
so much, everyone.
excuse me? Is it possible to
Yeah.
check this proof of concept on an individual level, or that should be on organization level?
Proof of concept is for organization level. We can provide you with a free access, which you can then probably, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us on how this functionalities can enable you and help you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions that we have that we missed?
I don't think so. We have covered everything.
Rema,
Awesome.
have we
Okay.
answered Mr. Rafizi's question? The last question regarding the register with SADIA and PDPL
Let me
compliance?
see. Okay, yes.
Yes,
Our organization is required to register with SADAIAs, informing about their PDPL compliance.
as of now, there is no such guideline that has come across. But down the line, I think once that committee is formed, the committee will be asking each enterprise about their enterprise ID and having a profile created in SADAIA or controlled by SADAIA, which might be needed, where you have to probably upload your compliance reports and proofs, which has been validated by those committee members. But as of now, there is nothing of such registration required.
And I guess that's a wrap with the questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Rahma and Rawat team. We really appreciate your support. And thank you so much, to everyone who joined the session and made it so interactive, so informative. So really happy and looking forward to this collaboration and, taking this forward with Rawat to all the enterprises in Saudi Arabia and beyond as well. So thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support and for your,
And
kind questions.
thank you. And thank you, yes, thank you, Mr. Ankit and the PrivaSapient team for sharing your expertise and insights with us. I hope this session gave the attendees a clear understanding of the PDPL requirements and the risk of non-compliance and how technology can help organizations across the whole kingdom achieve compliance while building digital trust. And yes, please, as a reminder, I would like to say that all attendees will receive 1 month free access of the tool as a part of a bonus offer. In addition, we are extending a special proof of concept discount. And yes, and the only condition is that you'll have to register your interest before the 15th of September. And on behalf of Rawad IT Solutions and PrivaSapient, thank you once again for your time. and participation and the great questions and the interaction we had. We look forward to continuing the conversations and supporting your compliance journey. And yes, it's a wrap. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and have a wonderful day, everyone.